What's going on, everybody? We're back here for another episode of No Request TV on IG Live. Definitely had a great week of interviews, and we're going to end it off right now with the franchise out of Chicago. I'm about to bring her into the chat right now. Once again, this full interview will be available on our YouTube page, No Request TV. Just hit the link in our bio, and you'll be able to check that out. Very, very, very. Franchise.
What up?
How you doing? How you doing?
I'm good. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, I hear you. I put in my headphones. I forgot my buds, but we good right now. For everybody that's just tuning in right now, we are live with the franchise. Franchise is out of Atlanta. Well, she's out of Chicago by way of Atlanta. I actually met Franchise randomly on a end of a Friday night. I was DJing at L Bar, and here comes this little girl, little petite girl coming up to me at the very end of the night. Hey, I'm a DJ too, and I was like, okay, well, where you spend? They're like, well, I live in Chicago, and so on and so forth. So, just with me, seeing her energy and everything like that, I was like, cool. I got a brunch. It ain't a lot of money, but if you want to spend here in Atlanta, let me know. And it seems like ever since that moment right there, she done took off. So we're going to talk about her career. We're also going to talk about her battle with coronavirus. She's actually a coronavirus survivor. So we're going to get into all that today too as well. If you have a question for Franchise, just hit the comment section right there, and we'll definitely get around to that. But first, starting off, give the people a little peek into your background, where you're from, who you are, so we can start this off.
Okay. Well, my name is Francesca Fontenot. I go by the Franchise as my DJ name. I'm originally from Atlanta, as DiBiase said. And let's see, I started DJing about 4 years ago and completely fell in love with it. And I also work at Twitter on the inclusion and diversity team, so supporting underrepresented groups in tech. And I also started a collective, or helped co-found a collective in Chicago called Blacks Excelling in Sales and Technology. So we do like professional development programming, not like community service for Black people at tech companies in Chicago. And yeah, and also produce events.
Exactly. We're gonna touch all of that today.
Okay.
One thing I always like to start off the conversations with the DJs is, just kind of give an early look into your relationship with music. When you were a kid and it was time to clean up the house on a Saturday, like a Saturday like today, what was mom and daddy playing? What were the tunes going on in the household?
In the house. Oh my gosh, I loved our Saturday morning music, and I think my mom actually joined. You've met her before.
Oh yeah, I've met the whole family.
I know you're like the only DJ who knows both my parents randomly, but my mom actually used to work for Sprite. She used to do advertising for Sprite, and she worked on the Obey Your Thirst campaign in
Nice.
the 90s, which was like heavy into hip hop and like R&B. Yep, she's on.
Yeah.
And so she used to play like all of the artists that she was working with and featuring in commercials. So like KRS-One, like a lot of, she's also from New York originally.
Mm-hmm.
So she used to play a lot of like New York hip hop, a lot of like 90s R&B. I remember TLC being my first album, Crazy Sexy Cool.
Mm-hmm. Classic.
And yeah, I love that album. So yeah, a lot of that. And then my dad, he's originally from Louisiana, so he actually used to play a lot of Zydeco music, if
Oh
you
wow.
might be familiar with it.
Definitely.
Yeah.
I love that.
So he played a lot of Zydeco music, a lot of Ray Charles. What else would he play? A lot of like 70s funk music, and he really likes Snoop Dogg randomly. So
Had to throw a little Snoop in the mix.
yeah. So I was listening to all that stuff when I was like 5, 6, 7 years old. And then my younger brother actually, like later when I was like a teenager, he was very into like conscious hip hop and also 90s hip hop. So he used to play a lot of like Little Brother, Far Side. So Tribe Called Quest. So yeah, my influences are kind of all over the place.
That's a great mix right there. I mean, it seems like everybody in the household had their own little playlists, had their own little vibe and everything. So, you know, that definitely explains your sets and, you know, your musical taste and everything like that too as well. So, you didn't get right into DJing while you were a child or in, you know, school and everything like that. So, in high school, going into college, when did you first notice the DJ? Like, when did you first take a notice to like, okay, I see what that person is doing over there, and I'm interested. I want to try that myself.
Yeah, so it wasn't until, I mean, honestly, I've always been kind of infatuated with music. In college, I was our like concert chair, so I planned concerts at Georgetown, and would also find like local concerts coming in town and help subsidize ticket prices for students. So that was kind of like my foray into the music industry. And then after college, I worked at BET for 5 years.
Mm.
So working on a lot of like the award shows and watching 106 in Park all the time. Like I had a TV in my office. So I used to watch 106 in Park like every day and just music videos a lot. And it wasn't until actually after I left BET, I was at some friends' houses one day and they were just like, I was just playing music on my iPhone and they were like, you always remember what songs we like to hear, what artists we like, and you play music for like the right vibe, you should consider being a DJ.
Mm.
And that was about 4 years ago. I honestly hadn't thought about it before that moment. And I had heard of Scratch Academy. So I looked into that and I was like, you know what, I'll just take one lesson and see how it goes. And I like absolutely fell in love with it. So then I started taking more and more lessons. And that's kind of when I got into DJing, I guess.
No, no doubt. That's you know, I think a lot of even if you start DJing late or even while you're in high school, I think the basis is you're the supplier of the music, whether it be on the car ride, at the party, on the bus, whatever the case may be. So even if you don't have two turntables and a mixer, just having that musical knowledge, especially when it comes from your background, just growing up 5, 6 years old, listening to TLC and Snoop Dogg and Zydeco music, having that palette right there is something that, you know, by the time you get a little bit older, your taste is going to be, you know, very, very refined. Um, so
Right.
you went to Scratch Academy. As far as, okay, so you're learning how to DJ, but did any DJs grab your attention? Like, okay, I see what he's doing, I see what she's doing. Who are your DJ influences?
Honestly, I mean, when I was going to Scratch Academy, my instructors were my influences.
Right.
Like I was so hyper focused on like learning the right way to do this. So my instructors were Boy Genius, who I think you may know,
Hmm.
based in Chicago, DJ Send, and Toadstyle. Those were my three instructors at Scratch Academy. So, but I mean, now like really getting into like watching other DJs, Jazzy Jeff is like a huge influence. I was like, when I've seen him perform live, I'm just in awe
Right.
of his sets. And who else? I do like listening to the Selection Collective.
Hmm.
Um, I like their style. And other than that, I mean, honestly, I feel like every DJ has some type of special sauce to
Right.
them. So I appreciate different DJs for different reasons, if that makes sense.
With being at the Scratch Academy, because a lot of, you know, newer DJs are going the Scratch Academy route, what do you feel like Scratch Academy didn't prepare you for once you actually started getting into the clubs? Like, what did you learn? What did you have to learn on your own that Scratch Academy couldn't teach you?
Yeah, I mean, playing the crowds. Like,
Right.
Scratch Academy is like me and my instructor in a room together.
Mm.
But like in terms of like learning how to open was something that was like something you can only really learn by doing it over and over and seeing other DJs do it and kind of taking notes and like observing the crowd, learning how to like pivot and think on the fly and freestyle, and learning how to read a crowd. All those things I think are things that you just have to learn on the job. Like uh,
Definitely.
those are probably the biggest things that I mean. Scratch Academy teaches you like the basics, how to set up equipment, like blending, scratching, that type of stuff. But being in the zone and like playing to the crowd is something that you have to learn.
So let's talk about that first gig. So you graduate from Scratch Academy, and then your first booked gig, not DJing at your friend's house for people that like you or whatever, but actually getting hired as a DJ. What was that first gig like for you?
Dude, I was so nervous.
Paint the picture.
um, I still remember it was a little under 4 years ago. It
Mm,
was at a pool party for one of my friends who is also kind of like a promoter, and it was like his birthday party. But it was at like a sports club here. It was a summer party, and I like convinced him to do it. Obviously, I wasn't getting paid. I was like, I'll do it for free. I just want people to like take me seriously and know that I can actually DJ because like no one will believe that I could do it.
hmm
So he was down, and I prepared a set, because I was just like, I want to at least know what songs I'm gonna play and not have to. I didn't know how to read a crowd at that time.
Right.
So so yeah, and DJ Mile High was there with me. He's based in Chicago. And he just like really reassured me. He could tell how nervous I was. And he was like, okay, relax. Like, you're
Right.
good. So I really appreciated like having him there, kind of like calming me down. I barely looked at the crowd,
hmm
which is like the stark opposite of what I do now. But yeah, it was. I mean, it was extremely nerve wracking for me.
Yeah, I think anytime you do those first gigs is always you're gonna learn a lot about yourself. You're gonna also learn if this is something that you really want to do.
Yeah.
Anywhere you're at where people, are gone off of alcohol or whatever the case may be, and you're the focus of attention, that could be a great thing sometimes, but it can be a bad thing. So everyone has their stories, especially when they first start out. When would you say, I know you said you've been doing this for 4 years now. It seems like it's been longer than that, but you've been doing it for 4 years. At what point, how many years did it take for you to kind of really get comfortable and start talking on the mic and looking up at the crowd and making eye contact and smiling while you're DJing and not looking so serious? How long did that take?
Whew. Uh, I want to say it was a few months.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to think. I mean, honestly, for me, it was like a lesson in confidence. Like practicing helped my confidence, getting feedback from the crowd, knowing, like having people give me like positive reinforcement, not second guessing myself. But I remember like after a few months, I guess it was, that I started like getting hit up about like doing more gigs, not having to do it for free anymore, like actually getting paid for it was
Right.
a confidence booster, getting
hmm
calls back from venues and clients. So yeah, after a few months, and then honestly, like I think a year later was when I started getting residencies, and that was when I started really feeling comfortable seeing that like a lot of people are coming just to see me,
Right.
and you feel like, okay, I can do this.
No doubt. If you're just not tuning into us right now, this is No Request TV. No Request TV is a platform for DJs to talk shop, see who they are beyond the booth, outside of the turntables and outside of the club, especially now with everything that's going on with the lockdown. We're here live with the franchise who's out of Chicago by way of Atlanta. And we're just talking about her come up as a DJ, her first gigs and everything. If you're just not tuning in, this whole interview will be on our YouTube page. Just hit the link in our bio, No Request TV. So during all this time, were you just DJing full time, or you were splitting time between working and DJing? What were you doing?
The latter. So I've
Mm,
never been a full-time DJ. I've
okay.
always been working as well, and like having a full-time job, and then then DJing on the side. So
Mm,
time management, like that. I guess the two biggest questions I get asked the most is like, how are you able to do both
right.
and manage your time? And then the other question is like, would you ever quit your full-time job to do DJing full-time? And
And the
I
answer
mean,
would be
well, right now, definitely not.
hell no, right?
But honestly, the answer has always been no.
Right.
I'm very thankful and grateful to have a career that I do find fulfilling and I actually enjoy. And
Mm,
it's rewarding for me, the type of work I do. And there are a lot of also like just great benefits of working at Twitter. And the company is very flexible. My coworkers are like so supportive of me. It's given me an opportunity to DJ at like our company events for like thousands of people. So yeah, it's very unique in that I'm able to kind of merge the two in a way. So I appreciate that. Yeah. And then on the time management front, I just like I read a lot of books about time management and I just take it really seriously.
Yeah, I mean, especially, because even though you have the job of Twitter, there's nobody on you as far as like, okay, you need to listen to this album and figure out what cuts you're going to use or organize your crates so that when you do get to that gig, you're not frantic. You have to really, really learn how to manage your time with anything that you do, but especially if you're balancing corporate arena and then also entrepreneurial arena too as well. So going back to Twitter, for those that don't know what you do at Twitter that might have just joined, um, what is your position at Twitter?
Yeah, so initially I was on the advertising team for the first like 3.5 years. And then last summer I transitioned. Well, while I was on the advertising team, I was also a co-chair for our Black employee resource group called Blackbirds.
Mm-hmm.
And I really enjoyed that type of work. I really liked helping people that need it and wanting to empower and help advance the careers of underrepresented people in tech. So
Mm-hmm.
I transitioned to our inclusion and diversity team last summer. And now I am our BRG manager. So I essentially oversee all 9 of our global underrepresented groups at Twitter. And I help build programs that can scale globally, help them work more efficiently. And yeah, our 3 pillars are like empowerment, belonging, and building community and giving back to the community. So
You do
that's
all
kind
that,
of.
and then you still go DJ at night too. If you don't know about the franchise, she definitely has a really, really great brand resume along with DJing in clubs. Name some of the brands that you've worked with in your short 4-year career so far.
Thank you. Well, Chanel, Google, Twitter, of course,
Mm.
Nike, Adidas, the Obama Foundation. That was a really special gig. Uh, yeah, I'm probably forgetting some. Uber.
Uber, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Those are just the ones that are top of mind right now.
Outside of the money, do you prefer those brand gigs over the club gigs, or which one do you prefer?
My preference, like my ideal gig, is when I'm curating my own events
Right.
because I'm a bit of a control freak. I'm a Virgo, and
Mm.
I like having that creative control, deciding what the vibe is going to be, and honestly, like not having to worry about some of the bullshit that can come when you're working with like third parties and you don't know, like, there's just things that are more out of your control.
Mm.
Um, so yeah, I like my events, and I've been fortunate enough to curate like a following that really enjoy them. And like I have a very strong connection with that crowd. So it's just what comes most naturally to me at this point.
Going back to some of, as you say, the bullshit that you got to deal with collaborations. When you're working with a lot of these brands, you'll have whoever the point person is who has really no idea about the culture or anything like that. They're literally, that's just what their assignment was. And they're sitting there trying to tell you what music to curate or this is the vibe we were looking for. We want, like dancey, but not too dancey, or we want it like this and not too that. How do you deal with that instruction because or that direction in a creative space because what we're doing, even though we're not singing and we're not playing a traditional instrument, we're still artists. How do you
Yeah.
deal with somebody trying to control your artistry like that?
Yeah, I try to find a balance. So I'll try to maybe do a little bit of what they say, but also still read the crowd. Like I'm never just going to ignore the crowd and pretend like they're not there and stick to a playlist that I'm given just because it's a wedding or a corporate event or something. Um, so yeah, just kind of like, okay, I might play a few of the songs that you recommend, but if some of your songs are like completely off base and I just don't think they're going to go over well, I won't play it. Or like if I have the crowd like on a certain vibe, like if we're in a, I don't know, like a 90s music, 90s hip hop vibe, and then you're telling me to play something completely different, then it's like, okay, maybe I'll try to get there, but I'm not gonna just like abandon what I'm doing right now, because, you know, it's really hard once you lose the crowd and once you like lose that connection, they're not really responding to what you're playing. It's kind of hard to recover. So.
Yes, definitely is. You know, I think having that balance, because you know, at the end of the day, these clients are paying you, and sometimes you know it is a tricky situation to, you know, tricky rope to walk. But if you have that
Mhm.
balance where you're doing, you know, giving some of you and also pleasing the client, that's also the best way to go. Going back to let's see here. So some of the brands that you have worked with, I saw that you had an AT&T campaign. Talk about, you know, being on a billboard in Chicago. What was that like?
That was amazing. That was definitely like one of the best experiences of my life. It was so random. They, you know, they just hit me up and found a photo. Shout out to my photographer, Rena.
Hmm.
They reached out to me and said, "Is it okay if we use this photo for this billboard?" Actually, I didn't even know it was a billboard at first. They were like, "Oh, we're just like posting some photos of people in Chicago around the city," and I was like, "Okay, sure."
Right.
And then I was actually out of town when the billboard went up. I was in San Francisco, and all of a sudden people were like posting photos of it and like tagging me, and I was like, "Wait, what the hell?" Because they never told me that it'd be like a billboard. I was just excited about it being like on a street sign or something.
Right.
So yeah, so it really did feel like a larger than life moment. And then as soon as I got back in town, I like went to where the billboard was and like looked at it, and yeah, it was incredible. I guess it's one of those experiences that I never would have thought I'd be on a billboard.
Hmm.
And but it's amazing, yeah. And there's been like four other signs that are in the city that they have me featured on as well, like street posters and stuff. So it was really cool.
Definitely. Going back to branding, especially talking about your own personal brand. You know, along with having DJing skills, learning how to mix, learning how to read a crowd, especially in this day and age, especially in 2020, your branding is just as important. You know, you can know all the tricks of, you know, on the turntables, but if you don't know how to brand yourself, no one's going to come out to see you. No one's going to book you. Talk about how you learned how to brand yourself. Did you use some of the knowledge from working with BET and Twitter to kind of uh, help you out with your own the franchise brand? Talk about DJ branding. Give some tips to some of the viewers watching right now. And if you have any questions for the franchise, feel free to ask right now.
Yeah, absolutely. So I studied marketing or majored in marketing in college at Georgetown. So that
That
was a
helps.
big, yeah, that's definitely a big advantage I think that I have in my court. And then spending almost a decade actually working in advertising and marketing has also like I basically took, you know, working with major brands in like a corporate sense, because the type of work I would do is like at BET, for example, I was responsible for kind of integrating or placing certain brands and products in the programming that you see on BET.
Mm.
So making sure like a Ford car was positioned correctly on the red carpet at the BET Awards, or working with like, I don't know, a retailer like Macy's to do a fashion show within 106 in Park, where the hosts and like maybe we have some cast members wearing like Macy's apparel.
Right.
So that involved a lot of like reviewing graphics, reviewing like video cuts, providing edits, making sure that everything was like tight, especially when you're dealing with like live TV. Um, you can't, there's really no room for error. When you're dealing
Right.
with live TV and clients that are spending like millions of dollars, you have to make sure everything's tight. So yeah, I definitely like took a lot of those learnings and applied and tried to apply it to myself. But the advice that I would give is to just kind of like, I think everyone has to just create their own brand, and aesthetics are so, it's like a personal opinion, really.
Mm-hmm.
what looks good to you, what looks good to me might not look good to someone else. But
Mm-hmm.
at the end of the day, if you're doing what looks good to you, it will come across as authentic. Um, and it won't seem like you're trying to be someone else. And I think that's like super important. So the other thing I would say is like leverage free resources online. Like even now I've been like watching YouTube videos about like just graphic design, trying to study it and learn more about it, so that I can continue to kind of build on my brand.
Yeah, definitely. I've been doing the same thing. I've been really getting into photography lately. I've probably watched like for the last 3 weeks, just a whole bunch of photography videos, just learning it. And, I think it's really important to take this time, from this lockdown to really come out with something. Everyone's having a different experience with this coronavirus, whether it be family stuff or personal stuff. So, but if you're able to learn right now, this is a great time to learn, read, watch some YouTube videos because, the knowledge is out there. And your phone is a smartphone, but you can make it a genius phone if you actually utilize it in the right way. But
Yeah.
we had a
Free.
question. We had a question up here from my guy Mova Bull. He said, "What clubs do you usually DJ for or DJ at in Chicago?"
So the venue that I work with the most is technically not a club, but I guess just a nightlife spot is Ace Hotel.
Hmm.
So it's more of like a lounge. It kind of reminds me of the W in Atlanta a little bit.
Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I love working with them. They've been great partners. I'm really sad that they're closed right now, obviously, and like, they're raising money to kind of get things back in place after COVID. But they've been like my favorite venue to work with. I started DJing with them, I think 2 or 3 years ago, just from a cold email that I sent, and then I had to like fill out this like application that they had, send over some like example mixes, kind of interview basically. And then I started as a resident, and it grew to the point where like I was bringing out lines outside of the venue that they weren't
Wow.
seeing when I wasn't there. And they even shared with me that like when I was there, I was setting records for bar sales that they
Mm.
hadn't seen before. Um, so I was like, this is like my spot. They're very easy to work with, and now it's at a point where they come to me first when they have like bigger opportunities, and they let me curate events in different floors of the hotel and different spaces that they have. So it's just been a really good partnership. I love Ace.
That's great. So it sounds like you're the music director of the hotel now more than just a DJ.
Well, they
Going
do
back,
have a music director, but like with
yeah.
the other DJs and stuff. But yeah, I like to think I'm like part of the family and the team.
Going Ham just asked, not sure if you answered this before, but did you go to Scratch Academy? Yes, Franchise did go to Scratch Academy. She graduated. If you're just now joining the live right now, this full interview will be on our YouTube page at No Request TV. After this interview, just go to the link in our bio, No Request TV's bio, and just subscribe, and it'll probably be up by next week. Going back to Chicago, what is Chicago nightlife like? I've been there a lot of times, and it's not like Atlanta. It's not like Miami. There aren't clubs on every corner. There's a lot of segregation too, as well. As far as this is where white people party. This is where black people party. This is where black people are allowed to party. Talk about Chicago nightlife.
Whew, that's like a loaded question. Chicago nightlife, especially compared to Atlanta, is so different. Um, I would say that the thing about Chicago that I feel like is very special or different is that, I mean, in some ways you could look at it as segregation, but also there's just so many different lanes, which I
Mm,
think lends itself like really well to the DJ industry because you're not really competing with people. There's just different lanes that you can go in as a DJ. Because, in Chicago, there's like the house music scene, there's like
mm,
the juke and like drill music scene, and then there's like more of the mainstream type of scene. They have like, touristy spots and stuff, top 40. Uh, and then there's like, younger crowds, older crowds. So I guess that's kind of how I would describe Chicago scene. It is also very segregated. There is a lot of systemic issues, I guess you could say, when it comes to race in some venues. I mean, there definitely have been venues that have like not asked me to DJ again because most of my crowd is Black, you know.
Mm.
And when I DJ, I'm gonna bring a crowd. They're Black professionals. There's no reason to be concerned. There's actually never been a fight or a violent incident at any of the events that I've curated. So there's really no cause for concern. And like I said, they're really gonna support your bar sales,
Mm.
especially because most of the people that are coming to my events work in tech. You know, like me, they're people that I meet through professional opportunities. So yeah, I don't think there should be a cause for concern, but it's America, I guess, or Chicago. So when that's the case, those are the venues I just don't work with. I've also noticed some venues will try to provide you with a lot of guidelines to avoid trap music and
Mm.
rap music, and like if you're gonna play hip hop, only play '90s hip hop.
Mm.
So they will do that to try to avoid, you know, having Black people in their establishment, which is really crazy to me. But like I said, there are other options, and there is a pretty vast scene, in my opinion. So
Well, that's great that you started your own events, and I try to tell the DJs, especially when they first get into the game, start your own event. It doesn't matter if only two people come out. Just start it now, because what you'll learn from those two people that come out or those people that don't come out, you'll learn more about yourself and what people want to go to, what kind of events they want to spend their money to get into, and you'll find out more about yourself too as well. Starting your own events, building your own brand instead of waiting for these bars or hotels or clubs to call you. If you're just going to be a DJ that waits for somebody to call you to, hey, I want to pay you to play music, you're going to be waiting a long time.
yeah.
What made you start your own events? How soon into the game when you started DJing did you start curating your own events?
Well, you gave me some advice
I did?
back in the day. Before I started curating my own events, I remember you telling me that like it's definitely something I should consider and look into, and it's just a different way to kind of diversify your income and monetize in a different way. Um, so that stuck with me for sure. And the first time I did it, it was for my birthday, about I guess 3 years ago maybe. And I was like, you know, I want to throw a birthday party. I was a resident DJ at a venue called Untitled at the time, which you've been to now.
Yeah.
And you know, I came to them with a few different concepts, and one of those was like an R&B themed party called Red Light Special. Um, and they loved the idea. They were already like a great partner, because like they saw the business that I was bringing in, so they were always like trying to book me there. So yeah, so I just tried it out for my birthday, and like it was an extreme success. There were so many people that came, and I was like, you know what, I like this. I like being able to like come up with a theme, create a flyer, book other DJs, like put money in the DJs that I fuck with, like put money in their pockets, look out for them. That's extremely rewarding to me. And then also like, you know, trying to just curate an experience that I myself would enjoy. Because
Right.
honestly, like I'm not a big nightclub person. I prefer like
Right.
lounges and bars. So being able to kind of take over those spaces and just think about like what I would like, and then provide that for people like me and people that I know, it was a great experience.
That's what's up. We're gonna get into now, of course, present day. Of course, right now we're uh, in the middle of a pandemic, the coronavirus pandemic, and unfortunately, the coronavirus, did enter your life, and thankfully, you survived it. Of course, a lot of us have been watching the news and been seeing, what reports are saying, CNN, saying this, local news is saying that, a lot of emphasis on New York. Give us just a, you know, timeline of just from the day you found out or before you even found out when you were just maybe not feeling well. Talk about your experience fighting COVID-19.
Yeah, so it was a little over 6 weeks ago now. Um, it was a Thursday, and that morning, my boyfriend Fred, who you've met, and we
Hmm.
lived together, he woke up and he had a fever. I hope he doesn't mind me sharing this.
Shout out to Fred.
And I was, that was kind of, I was like, oh shit, like I hope he doesn't have it. But he was like, I'm fine, I'm fine. I was like, okay. So then a few hours later, I just felt like really tired, and
Mm.
I was still working at Twitter. We were working from home at this point, but I was like putting in a lot of hours at work. So I was like, maybe I'm just tired from working and adjusting to this like new normal. Maybe there's just like I'm dealing with the same stress, exhaustion, and anxiety that everyone else is dealing with. So that's how I felt the first day. The next day I was still extremely tired, and then the third day I had like a migraine and my body
Mm.
was aching a lot. And then the fourth day I just could barely get out of bed. I thought I was at that point I just thought I was dealing with a migraine still, but I've never really had migraines before, so that should have tipped me off. And I just was like trying to like just relax and rest all day. Monday, I went back to work and I was on a video call with someone, and they were like, "You don't look too good. You should
Mm.
just get off this conference call and go rest."
Wow.
Yeah, and that's never happened before. So I was like, okay. And then that night is when I started experiencing like having a shortness of breath,
Mm.
and I was coughing a little bit, and I was like, okay, now like all the symptoms were just kind of adding up. So the next morning, I went to the respiratory center in Chicago, and I got evaluated. And they couldn't give me a test because there are shortages. And honestly, like a lot of people have asked if I got tested or why I didn't get tested, and I'm like, they told me that my vitals were good. I'm young. I don't have any pre-existing conditions, and they're reserving the test for people who really need it. And like, I didn't want to take that from someone who might really need it. So I was like, okay, fine. But they did test me for strep and flu, and both of those came back negative. And at this point, I mean, they said that I had the symptoms, and like going on the CDC site, it was like check, 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 check.
Right.
So, so yeah, they basically just told me to rest, and they gave me this sheet. I thought it would be helpful in case anyone may be experiencing symptoms in terms of what they can take over the counter if they're able to see this.
Mm.
Maybe they can like take a screenshot, because I know a lot of people don't have health insurance too.
Right. Yeah.
So if anyone wants to take a screenshot of this, I just wanted to hold that up and
Appreciate
share as
that.
a resource.
So you had all the symptoms, and from that point on, they just released you from the hospital, and you had to just fight it off on your own, just rest and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I never checked into the hospital. I just went to get evaluated.
Mm.
Yeah, they were just like, there's no cure, just rest and drink water. And if for any of these symptoms, take the over-the-counter stuff to help kind of alleviate any of the pain. So that's kind of all I did. I just, my boyfriend had it as well. We just
Mm.
slept a lot. It was very hard to get out of bed in the morning. The toughest part for me was just like, well, there are a few tough parts, but one was just being extremely dehydrated.
Mm.
So I was like constantly drinking water. Like I could drink like 5 liters of water when I woke up in the morning and still be like extremely thirsty. Like, it
Wow.
was crazy. So I also had Pedialyte and things like that. But when you're drinking that much water, then you also have to like use the restroom a lot.
Gotta go. Yeah.
Yeah, and so at night I wasn't able to like really sleep because I would have to get up, use the restroom, and then
Mm.
if I woke up, I would be like, "Oh, I'm so thirsty," and then I'd have to drink a
Right.
lot more water. So it just totally threw off my sleep schedule.
Mm.
And so during the day, even if I would wake up, I would just be tired. It was hard to get out of bed. Um, but yeah, I think that was probably the toughest part, and the body aches and the headaches for me personally. I mean, everyone's symptoms are different, but
Mm.
I would, I might plan to like FaceTime a friend or something, but you know, if I had a headache or if my throat just wasn't cooperating, I felt like I could really only talk on the phone maybe like 1 or 2 times a day, if that,
Mm.
because after that it was just like, you know, the dehydration was too much to deal with.
I wanted you to share this because, there's still a lot of people that are thinking this is a government thing or it's fake or there's just people that aren't able to see it for their own eyes because not everybody lives in a big city like Chicago or here in Miami or New York. If you live in the middle of Nebraska somewhere or, in an unpopulated part of Texas, coronavirus is just something that you're watching on TV. It's like a new movie every night. And some people it's not a reality for it, but I've known people that personally I haven't known anybody that's passed, but I have a lot of friends who have people that passed. So when I found out that you had it, when you shared it on Twitter last week, I was very surprised. Francesca is very, she's a young, healthy, fit, active young lady, and this is something that she was battling for over a month. So please take these precautions seriously. And we have a follow-up question here from DJ Kerrison. He says, as a coronavirus survivor, what safety precautions would you offer specifically to fellow DJs moving forward, especially during a time in which some states are already reopening?
uh, I mean, I don't, the states that are reopening, it's a little crazy to me, to be honest. It's tough because I know that people need income, they need money, but at the same time, I just don't think it's worth your safety, honestly,
Mm-hmm.
to risk it. And until the entire like country is open and like all of the political parties are in agreement that it's the right time, not just because Trump says it's okay.
Mm-hmm.
And the CDC, says like, yes, it's safe. We have a vaccine or whatever needs to happen for us to be safe and feel safe. I would suggest just kind of holding off. But I mean, even once that happens, because we don't know if there's going to be a second wave and things like that. Uh, I mean, if you have to go out, definitely, wearing a mask. I don't even know how you could do that as a DJ. And then wearing gloves and sanitizing the equipment, which I never really realized that like no one's out here sanitizing DJ equipment
At all.
until
They're barely cleaning up the booth from the night before. You're going in there,
right.
you're seeing bottles and cups and
Dust
uh,
everywhere.
uh, broken up blunts and stuff like that, and
Right.
sweet wrappers. So I definitely know they're not hitting it with the Lysol can at all.
At all. At all. Everything's covered in dirt and dust and
Hmm.
germs.
Hookah smoke and all that. Yeah.
Right. So, so yeah, I don't know. And then it's tough because like when you're DJing, people are tapping you, trying
Yeah.
to talk to you, giving you hugs and stuff. It's like I don't know how to create that boundary. I just feel like it's better to go virtual, honestly. Like pivot to the extent possible, be flexible, think about ways to generate money without putting your life and your health in danger.
Thank you for that question, DJ Kerosene. If you're just now tuning in, we're live here with the franchise. If you have any questions for the franchise while we're wrapping up, please hit the comment section below. This whole interview will be available on our YouTube page at No Request TV. Just hit the link in our bio once we wrap up over here. It's talking about the future of DJing post-corona. You said you have a lot of, events that you do and, in your own personal curated events. Where do you see the future of nightlife and your contribution to, events in your city or elsewhere? I know you said we should just all be going virtual right now, but you can't have a party without a lot of people there, grinding on each other or talking to each other or dapping each other up or whatever the case may be. Where do you see DJing post-corona?
Honestly, I hope that like with with things like with what's going on right now and how many people have turned to DJing for, therapy and streaming DJ sets right now. I hope that there's a newfound appreciation for what we do, like
Right.
thinking about D Nice, for example, is obviously like the biggest example right now. But just understanding like the what we can provide, you know, and how unique that is. and what a benefit it can be. So I really hope that there's a newfound appreciation for us and our profession.
Definitely.
But aside from that, like I definitely want to continue to produce my own events. Um, Personally, I think this whole experience for me, especially just being out sick, like I've never taken 3 weeks off from work before, ever.
Mm-hmm.
Like I haven't had that time to myself. So it's really taught me to kind of slow down, understand that like work and life and the world, like everything else is always going to be there. So I'm hoping to carry that lesson with me too, and just not try to like always be running around. You know, sometimes I get exhausted because I'm working full time, I'm DJing, I'm producing events, I'm promoting them, and wearing so many different hats. So I'm hoping that I can just be a little more intentional and not be trying to do too much, basically. Just
Yeah, this is
slow
like
down a bit.
a timeout for a lot of people. And like I said before, if you're dealing with, this on a whole nother level, it's not a timeout. This is a, very stressful time for people as far as money and finding out where their check is going to come from. A lot of people are losing their jobs. A lot of people can't work from home. They have to actually be on site. But
Hmm.
if you're blessed to not have to be in any of those situations, this is a great timeout. It's been nice not having to, you know, being pulled and tugged and flying here to do this and then coming right. It's been nice just to have the time out, but also utilize this time if you're watching just to build upon yourself. It doesn't have to be necessarily money related or career related. Just to focus on yourself, get some knowledge on your head. Take care of some things that you've been putting off on the back burner for a little bit. We've got another question here from Kinder. She said, "What's been the biggest obstacle as a female DJ, as a female in the DJ world?"
Yeah, and it's so interesting too because when I was getting into DJing, I don't think I realized how few female DJs or how few females there are, women in the industry, until like I kind of started doing it and people were calling me a female DJ and I'm like, why are you calling me that? I'm just a DJ. But anyway,
Well,
so it's not a term that I've ever really embraced. I think I've always wanted to be just on a level and even playing field, um, personally. But one of the biggest obstacles, I guess, is just like people taking you seriously, being out, having people ask if you're really DJing. I'm like,
mm,
like, yes, you see the equipment in front of
yeah,
me.
this is a
Uh,
hologram you're looking at.
yeah, like what? Um, so like the questions like that, and people. Sometimes I do think that some guys could be a little more aggressive with the request sometimes. They think, they see you and they're like, I'm not intimidated by you. I'm gonna come up and just tell you what to play.
Right.
And, having to stay your ground and be very firm and, I may come off as a bitch sometimes, but like I know that sometimes when people approach me, they wouldn't approach a man that way, and I
Hmm.
don't appreciate that. So I'm gonna shut it down if it happens. Um, Other obstacles, uh, I mean, I guess those are just the main things, like being taken seriously, dealing with some, stupid or ignorant questions,
Yeah.
and kind of protecting your space and kind of like honestly being a bit of a bodyguard, like being your
Mm,
own bodyguard, or even sometimes having my friends or my boyfriend does it a lot, just kind of standing by you because like there have been guys that will just like stand next to me and just stare at me the whole time or like just get in your personal space. And I'm like, this is not okay. So
right.
setting those boundaries has been another obstacle of mine for sure.
Appreciate that question, Kinder. Got another question from Gus. Have you received the antibodies test or know how to get one for other Chicago residents?
Mm, I don't. I haven't, and
Okay.
I don't.
Yeah. Okay. And then we have another question
I
here
would
from,
imagine reaching out to like your primary care physician or something, but
yeah,
I've
exactly.
heard that they're still skeptical about them and stuff. So I'm like, I'm gonna just wait.
Yeah. Um, Franchise is not an MD in that way. You know what I mean? She's an MD. She makes decisions, but she's not a medical doctor. So definitely consult your physician for any medical questions. We have another question here from Vanessa. She said, before the pandemic, what was your work-life balance as a DJ? What what has changed the most?
Mm, that's a good question. Uh, work life, so work and life, because
Hmm.
it's um, I would say that I'm a workaholic in a lot of senses. I allowed work to stress me out. I allowed it to consume me in a lot of ways, mentally. Like I, I feel like I'm one of those people that it's not easy to kind of like let things go at work. I'm a perfectionist, like I said, I'm a Virgo, so just always wanting things to be perfect. And I think I definitely prioritize work over life in a lot of ways. And with this pandemic forcing me to slow down, forcing me to take a break from work, and then even when I started going back to work at Twitter, after I recovered, like seeing that, like, okay, the world didn't fall apart.
Right.
Like I can pick this up. I've already like caught up on the work that I missed when I was out. I have a great team. I saw some of them join as well from Twitter, so shout out to them. But yeah, I don't have to be like so consumed with work. It's gonna be there basically.
Hmm.
Um, so that's been a good lesson. And same with DJing too. Again, like going back to just like being intentional. And I think it's hard, and one of the hardest things I've had to learn as a DJ is like how to say no without like burning a bridge or
Hmm.
ruining a relationship. So, sometimes I'm blessed. I don't want to, say I take it for granted or anything, but I'm very blessed in the amount of inbound requests that I receive to DJ. But also just kind of like reminding people like I do work full time. Before the pandemic, like I was traveling to San Francisco at least once a month. I
Hmm.
travel for work a lot. So just letting people know like, hey, it's not really feasible for me to like get on a red eye back to Chicago and then have to like DJ the next day.
Right.
And helping people understand that without them thinking I'm like saying I'm too good for them or anything like that. So,
Yeah.
but now definitely I'm grateful to learn these lessons of just like slowing down. It was something that was already top of mind for me before the pandemic, but now it's like, okay, I definitely should make more time for life, connecting with friends, connecting with family. Like I during this quarantine, I've been calling people a lot more, having more like quality conversations, checking in on people, things that I just didn't make enough time for before. So I am thankful for that perspective.
There's definitely a silver lining in everything. Thank you for that question, Vanessa. We also have another question from New Face. She said the first record you ever spun, I guess is what he means by that. That's kind of you got to go back 4 years for that. So what was the first record you ever put on the turntables at that first party you were talking about?
Well, the first record was like the scratch practice record.
You want to get technical?
We're being technical.
Yeah.
But the first song that I remember, and I'm still thinking like in my Scratch Academy days, I remember those days so vividly. But I remember playing Kendrick Lamar, All Right,
Hmm.
and blending it with Chris Brown and DJ Drama Wishing, which is like a random,
Yeah, very obscure.
not something I would advise, but it was literally those were the first two songs that I learned how to blend together, and
Okay.
they were the same BPM type of thing.
Yeah,
So, but again, not something I would recommend doing.
no
I
doubt.
said,
That's great that you can even remember that. You got a really good memory there, Franchise. Um, Off topic from non-coronavirus and DJing and stuff. I saw that you have a new appreciation for Twizzlers. What's your favorite
oh,
flavor of Twizzlers?
just the classics.
Okay,
I
good.
It's random. My mom sent them to me in a care package, and I was like, I haven't eaten these since I was little, since I was living in my mom's house. But I ran through that package, and now I've just been eating them every day. It's an addiction that I need to overcome at some point. But
That's my tour snack. Anytime we're on tour, 2, 3 months or whatever, if you ever been on tour, you don't really get to go grocery shopping or anything like that. So you stop at these rest stops, pilots, and whatever the case may be, these truck stops, and you really just go in there and just grab whatever. And I always grab Twizzlers, but if you catch me off tour, I will not eat a Twizzler at all,
right.
off tour. But when I'm on that tour bus, I'll definitely go ham on those. Um, Give us, what are you watching? What are your Netflix recommendations right now?
Ooh. Honestly, I've been watching a lot of music documentaries. I've always, like, even growing up, I used to watch like every episode of Behind the Music and Pop Up Video, super
Yep.
throwback. So
Hmm.
I've been watching, I watched the Apollo documentary on HBO, Unsung. I wanted to ask you too, did you see the Goody Mob episode of Unsung? It just came out
What was going
recently.
on? Okay, so that night, that was the same night the Michael Jordan documentary came out. So right now
Oh,
on
I recorded it.
Sundays,
I recorded it. I watched
yeah,
I watched the Last Dance, and then I watched the Goody Mob one the next day.
yeah, I've been meaning to catch the Goody Mob. I don't think we get TV One down here in Miami, but I need to catch it on YouTube or something like that.
I have to say my login or something,
Yeah,
but
please
no, it
do.
was. So I watched a lot of Unsung episodes. They had a Drew Hill episode recently that was really good. What other? I'd already watched the Evolution of Hip Hop, but I would definitely recommend that to anyone who's interested. And what other? I mean, aside from that, me and Fred have been rewatching Boy Meets World on Disney Plus randomly.
Classic. We're gonna
Over.
we're gonna skip to these questions because we got this hour time
Oh,
limit with
okay.
Instagram and everything. So got two quick questions from the lovely lady LYD. What are you most looking forward to when people
Oh,
can
Lydia.
gather again?
What am I most looking forward to?
What are you most looking forward to when people can gather again post Corona?
Just seeing people, man. Just spending
Yeah,
time with people, being able to connect with them. Yeah, I guess, you know.
we're all looking forward to that.
Yeah,
I
being
think
around
everyone can
people. Yeah.
appreciate being around people after this. And then from DJ Wally Sparks, shout out to Wally Sparks, said, what's a good way for a DJ to leverage their Twitter following to help book gigs outside of their home market? Good question.
Oh, that is a good question. Uh, I mean, I'll speak from personal experience. I don't know if this is answering the question, but the same way I met you, like, honestly, you were the first person to book me for a gig outside of Chicago. I don't know if you know
Mm,
that.
I didn't.
Um, so personal connections, I think, go a lot further than, social media or anything else in terms of like all the gigs that I've done outside of Chicago, I feel like have been through like a personal relationship or connection or something like that, or someone who's seen me DJ in one city and then books me for another. So yeah, cultivating those relationships, and then as a DJ, trying to put people from other cities on, as I know you do, so that
Mhm.
you all can return the favor for each other.
Great question, Wally. We got about 30 seconds left here before we get knocked off. I just wanted to thank you, Franchise, for actually being here with us today. We're definitely happy that you survived your battle with coronavirus. We thank everybody for tuning in. This full interview will be on our YouTube page. Just hit the link in our bio if you missed anything, or just watch the replay on our Instagram. Any final shout outs? Where can people check you out? Are you going to be DJing live anytime soon?
I will be DJing live soon. Now that I'm back in action, so stay tuned for that. I'll be posting it on my Instagram. And honestly, shout out to you. Like, thank you for creating this platform. It's one of a kind for DJs by DJs. I think it's awesome. I'm really enjoying the content. So thank you for having me.
Thank you, Francesca. This is No Request TV. We'll see you again next week with some more interviews. Thanks, guys, for tuning in.
Thank you.